Hey, it's filled with tips for a better life, and you're about to listen to an interview that I had with John Cooper. And John Cooper is somebody who teaches men the art of social artistry. John started out as a teacher in the pickup community, but he became tired of the warlike, strategic, analytic mindset, and he started connecting again with the mindset we used to have as children. A mindset that entails things like playfulness, authenticity, spontaneity, and honesty. In a pickup world full of strategies and techniques, John is somebody who focuses more on revealing yourself and uncovering the layers to connect with your true self. So this really is an interview about the journey to positive masculinity. I hope you will like this interview, and if you would like to stay up to date with daily tips for a better life, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Hey John, really looking forward to this chat, man. Let's delve deep into masculinity. Now, I also try to delve into the initiation from boyhood to manhood. So I want to have a little bit of a perspective how it was for you to grow up as a man, like the place where you came from.
Okay, well, we can go into all of that.
Yeah.
All right, cool, man. So where do you want to start off? How should we
Like,
kick this off?
I don't know, maybe your childhood, how it was for you
Childhood.
growing up. Yeah.
Okay. Right, we're going to go right.
Yeah.
Reveal everything here. Okay, so um, let's start off with. I'm trying to think. Let's think of a key landmark in my journey that's going to be of help for guys to listen to. I was okay. I had growth problems when I was young. Okay, so I was like a tiny little pipsqueak at school. I actually nearly had to get growth hormones. I had to take pills to boost my pituitary gland to make me grow.
Whoa.
And I had to get my wrist x-rayed and stuff. And everyone was like a foot taller than me at school throughout the whole of primary school and secondary school, pretty much until like the last year. So it wasn't so much of a problem when I was at primary school because the girls had the lurgy. We just wanted to play football. We weren't really interested in girls at that age. And then secondary school, high school, I was still very small, and again, it didn't really matter the first 2 years because we were still playing like hide and seek and bulldog,
Yeah, yeah.
and pretty sure,
It was easier to play hide and seek
yeah,
since
yeah,
you
of
were
course,
that
exactly.
small.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was really good at that. But then, obviously, when the testosterone kicked in, and all my friends were like chasing girls at that point, like looking for girls, I was kind of like ostracized from my social circle, and actually bullied quite hard by them, my so-called friends at the time. I was obviously like the little kid that was like worried, like affecting their chances of girls, basically. So that hit me quite hard, and just from being a little dude, it. I mean, I do think it toughened me up quite a bit, And I also had to, because the school that I went to was very violent as well, even though it was in the suburbs of London.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's almost more violent because people are trying to mark their territory more, and people getting knifed in my school,
Wow.
and you'd only have to look at someone and they'd come and punch you in the face. If you just looked at them the wrong way, they'd come and punch you. It was like that kind of school. So I had to develop like a way of making like the old saying, make the bullies laugh.
Yeah.
Do you know-
The
So
Joker, a bit
yeah,
like
the
the Joker.
Joker. So I
Yeah.
became a bit of a joker, and I was able to sort of like placate situations fast. So I actually developed good communication skills just from dealing with bullies, actually, and how to like talk to them and like get around not being punched. I've actually not spoken about this before, but I do now that I'm going back into it. I think that was when I really developed my sharpness for emotional intelligence and
Yeah.
social dynamics and,
Yeah.
and acuity, right? Kind of yeah, having to deal with those situations like conflict management, you could say, for kids.
Yeah, you have to have social skills to be able to know, like, okay, I can relate to this bully in this way, so I will diffuse a little
Yeah,
bit of the tension that way, right?
absolutely. I mean, it's even like because the area is actually not a renowned dodgy area, right? But for some reason, it's in the suburbs, and like the young the youth there, they almost want to be like pseudo gangsters. Do you know what I mean? Like Ali G type thing, but
Yeah,
they
yeah,
actually are quite vicious. And I remember even just like coming out of the train, and I had to walk down this alley, and there were guys there, and I was only a young guy, and I just knew, you get that feeling, and something's going to happen
yeah.
here, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so instinctively, even at that age, just the 5 seconds just before I walked past them, I just put my hand into my jacket like that. Because in that moment, that was enough to just make them think, shit, like, what's he going to pull out?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then,
yeah.
and then as I'm doing that, one guy goes, no, leave this guy. And then as I walk past, just to not like offend them, I've just pulled something else out like a phone. But that just intuitively doing that probably saved me from getting my head kicked in. So it was just like, I just knew intuitively to how to be around people, just even in that situation.
Yeah, because you say you knew it intuitively, because I know some people who get bullied at
Intuitive,
school and they
yeah.
get like very introverted, very shameful, and they totally withdraw from life, That was not happening with you.
No, I don't think so. No, no, no. I kind of went on the front foot with it, you know.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I just had to either make them laugh, or in the rare occasions, I actually had to fight back,
Hmm.
and just held them off. And actually, it was weird, but just by actually doing that, I somehow got respect from them, Like, but I don't want to sort of promote that, but yeah. So I think school I kind of learned a lot from school, and actually, yeah, the one guy I kind of ended up with like the nerds, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean?
The protector of the
Yeah,
nerds, yeah.
yeah. Because I started off in school and I was actually one of like the cool sociable ones, right? And I was the funny kid. But then towards the end of high school, I had to kind of like go with the nerds because I was like pushed out from like the cool group. And actually, one of those nerds I could say was my friend Tom. He's a best friend of mine now. So everything works out for a reason. So yeah, that was what went on for me there. Then I actually shot up in height, like, but then I'd actually finished at secondary school by that age, so
Hmm.
that had all gone. But and then what happened is I broke out into such horrendous acne, such
Yeah.
bad skin, like on my back, like on my
Hmm.
face, that like I went into KFC and the guy refused to serve me. That's how bad it was.
Whoa.
He was not in, I mean, he would have served me, but he was saying, "Look, you sure you want to eat this? Like, it's very oily. Have you thought about taking this product for your
Yeah,
skin?"
yeah,
And
yeah,
this guy
yeah.
was actually trying to lecture me on like skin products, and I just thought, I'm not gonna, I won't eat that. So I went from being like the little pipsqueak to being like the elephant man's little brother,
Wow.
and then again, I felt so self-conscious about that I just thought I'm just gonna have to be celibate. I can't, I can't. There's no way. I can't. I just don't feel confident in my own skin, literally. And so that held me back. And then I guess then I had to go on Roaccutane, which is this like it's a drug that dries your liver,
Hmm.
and I think that's what it does. But it's like the pills are like that big. They're like apricot stones,
Whoa.
and you take it, and the side effects. There's actually not just like a list of side effects, right? It's a booklet.
They better say these are not the side effects. Yeah.
It's like a side effects book like that big,
Yeah, yeah.
and that actually gave me just by taking it, it did actually clear my skin up, but it actually gave me depression because it was like it's potent, absolutely potent pharmaceuticals. So that messed me up. But I got a clear. I actually had to finish that course before the end because it was just messing me up too much. Now we're talking like I guess early 20s, and I still wasn't really. My skin was just kind of like recovering, I guess.
Hmm.
And then,
Hmm.
then once that went away, I was actually a decent looking guy, and I was going out. And I was actually getting a lot of attention from girls, but of course, I didn't know what to
How to
do because
connect,
I
yeah.
was, yeah, because I was still that little boy. I was still like the little spotty duckling, and then girls would do this thing where they'd back into me on the dance floor, either oh sorry, or
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
just I noticed girls were loitering around me a
Hmm.
lot,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then like I guess I just just started just to do that thing where you put your hand like teenagers do,
Yeah, yeah.
put my hands around their hips, and then I just start grinding with them and then
Yeah.
spin them around, kiss them. And actually I just started to do that, and I was just like every time we went out I'd just be kissing loads of girls, and that was like I guess that was like my taste of like women, and like getting intimate with them just by on the dance floor. And we used to go out all the time, every Monday night, every weekend, and we used to just have fun on the dance floor. And I learned through play, and all my philosophies that we're going to go into actually come from a dance floor, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So all the things are actually linked to spiritual concepts that people are now telling me about, which I'm now aware of, right? The
They,
unconditional states, giving,
hmm.
playing,
Yeah.
autonomy. Actually, all cut like this all came from observations and participation on a dance floor in one of those student meat market clubs.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
the joke. That's the
yeah,
joke, man.
and dancing is also. I like to use dancing when I talk about femininity and masculinity because it's one of the few areas where I say the masculine and feminine without the one being dominant or better than the other, but they create a beautiful movement together. One is leaning in, one is providing support, and you create something beautiful.
Absolutely. The dance is a really good metaphor to explain the masculine and feminine energies working together in unison. One bleeds into the other, and it's not one that's more important. It's just that there's a perfect example of when the two do come together in that kind of harmony. Yeah.
We're also
Uh,
gonna delve a bit into archetypes, and we see maybe that that growing up stage was a bit the Joker stage, and then you had the acne, what was a bit like the mask, and then
yeah.
and then the mask fell off, and then things
Yeah, I
started
guess so.
happening.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it's like Kane from WWF or something. And so then actually, yeah, I was starting to get a lot of attention. Used to go out a lot. I ran my own club nights because I used to love partying so much,
Mm-hmm.
and became a bit of a party boy. Ran my own event, which was very successful in London, and yeah, just used to go out every weekend, like 24-hour sessions and more, and just built up a cool social circle doing that. Obviously, was meeting a lot of women because of my night and stuff. I had that status; it was quite cool. And never thought at that stage of any needed any advice about women. I was just everything was just done through trial and error, play, expressing myself, just always being in a higher purpose because I'm running my night and I'm doing cool shit, and that cool shit trickles down to the people that I see.
Did that transition happen fluidly? Because I can imagine when you get bullied and you were let's say the king of the nerds at a certain time. Uh,
Yeah.
to become intimate with women, to relate with women, to finally, like put yourself out there sexually. Did that happen pretty quickly, or did that transition happen slowly? For me personally, it happened
Yeah.
pretty late. That I was a virgin until I was in the beginning of my 20s. I
Yeah.
had the social skills, but I didn't know how to relate.
Yeah.
Once you went out, that dancing, was it something that
Well, and
happened naturally?
here's the thing, right? So I found that it was very easy for me to become intimate with women, or like let's say when we're out, okay? So I'm easy getting intimate, but then I got the thing where I found it hard to go to the extreme intimacy with women, you
Mm,
know,
mm,
because there was a part of me that thought I was going to get hurt, and
mm,
actually, still on some level, this still
mm,
affects me today, right?
mm,
So this still comes up every now and then. It's because there's sort of like that deep trauma from being like
mm.
hurt when I've been at my most vulnerable. Do you know what I mean? So that actually I still have issues where I'm still working through a lot of that trauma basically. Yeah. So I used to have this situation where I'd be all like fun and like cool Bobby, like the fun Bobby with girls in a club, kissing them and like being very, like just moving them around. They loved it. And then when it came to like the ultimate form of intimacy, i.e., like getting naked and like sex, like I found that I was kind of like blocking that a little bit at that, especially at
You
that
were
age.
still
Frightened,
performing.
frightened I was going to get hurt. Like
Mm,
frightened. Am I going to get humiliated?
mm.
I'm not saying they'd beat me up, but like there was that was still running as a program for me. You know what I mean? And that did actually affect me for a while. And even with my first girlfriend, I remember like it took a while to have sex. Actually, it did actually take a while because I guess my body was still going into fight or flight. Around that full level of intimacy, and that needed a level of like that nurturing. I need that nurturing feminine energy just to get me back into it. And actually, still that happens today sometimes. Like with a new girl, for instance, I can still feel a little bit of that trauma coming through. And by the way, I'm just going to be totally honest with everyone
Yeah,
here. Like
yeah.
this is quite a vulnerable share, and this is actually what I'm going to be talking about as
Hmm.
this is what the new masculine is. This is what the new definition of a man is for me, is just to be the alpha, as in not being cocky funny, but actually being the one that goes first, puts themselves first, shows up first, reveals. So that's what my pledge for this call.
Yeah, because I can relate to what you say. It can be
Yeah.
easy as people who have very much social intelligence and social skills to observe, to analyze. But
Hmm.
once you're truly vulnerable with a person or intimate with a person, you can't just keep on analyzing and observing. You got to let
Yeah.
go. But as men, especially at analyzing men, we build these bridges, and it's
Mm.
hard to let it down.
Mm.
And then it's a question of vulnerability, but a lot of people confuse vulnerability with weakness. But within
Yeah.
vulnerability and still have that strength within yourself, it can be a beautiful thing. But a lot of times,
Mm.
when I let down my bridges and tried to connect, it came
Mm.
from a needy place, and then I got hurt.
Say that again. So what happened? You were being vulnerable but needy. What? How?
Yeah, I didn't find that place within myself. I needed it too much. I protected myself so much from being intimate. And when I
Yeah.
finally connected with somebody, the bridges were lowered and it was, everything was released. And it was sometimes too much or too needy when when I didn't have that strength within myself and be comfortable with myself.
Okay, well maybe you just had to go through that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's part of that stage you probably do have to go through. And it got to the point where, because the first years of my, like, let's say my sexual, you know, when you get that sexual burst when you're like, you know, early teens, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I just had to, I conditioned myself through watching porn, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that became like the girlfriend, you know what I mean? And because that was so, that got so hardwired into me, that actually another part of the issue with women was that like I could only really get that hit of testosterone, that burst of libido, you know, the libido, if I'm somehow disassociating my mind. Because if you think about when you watch porn, you're you're turning yourself on, but you've got that safety. You know, you're behind the screen, let's say.
Yeah.
There's no intimate touch. It's
Yeah.
all mind.
There's no
It's
fear of rejection, you know. You can
yeah,
always press
yeah,
stop or
exactly.
pause, you know.
Yeah. And it's all been turned on through the mental side, right? So it's not turned on through touch, smells, or the sense, or the sensual aspects. So that was obviously another issue that I had with girls, is this, that to be able to turn myself on through complete, you know, touch and intimacy and proximity, and and it actually got to, I remember this, yeah, the first girlfriend that I had, I remember she wanted to have sex in the morning. And
Yeah.
so she's like jumping on me, trying to have sex with me in the
Yeah.
morning, and I just didn't want to. I just really just, you know,
I
get
can't
off.
handle this.
Yeah, no, she was like, get off, get off. And then the moment she left to go to work, right, I masturbated thinking about her.
Yeah.
Can you see how perverted that is?
Yeah.
But at the same
Yeah.
time, does that make sense? Because it's almost
It
like
totally makes sense.
somehow I'm back with myself again, and I've got that, like, that safety, and it's all like comfortable, and like I can go into my mind and think, and then, you know, that was creating that loop of libido. So so that I guess that was that created, I guess that was from all those years of like not having girls, you know, growing up in my teens. So that kind of created a thing. But that's effectively why this actually leads into a lot of my current work and my philosophy, is that for those early years in my 20s, my early 20s, a lot of the girls that I went home with, let's say, and I thought, well, I've got to go through this. So, you know, I want to like finally open up. I wouldn't take my jeans off with them, and I would just like you know, pleasure them. And then when they went for me, I was like, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no. And just to keep
Yeah.
myself safe, you know. And I actually learned kind of like had to learn loads of different ways to pleasure women and actually make them have orgasms without using my penis, basically. And I was, you know, like a Swiss Army knife. I was like, you know, using like my thumb, all different bristles, and, you know, just, and it actually I actually learned a lot about the idea of eroticism within sexual ritual. You know, so it's not about the penetration always. It's actually about the whole ritual that's, you know, that wraps around the intercourse, let's say, and it doesn't need the intercourse. So that erotic element doesn't need an outcome. And actually, that's kind of the building block, the foundation for social artistry. I applied that notion of eroticism into social engagement with women. Okay, so it's that intimacy, it's that eroticism without the need for a result, and that's what led me down this path of trying to turn around the pickup community, the men's
Yeah.
seduction community,
Be-
and
be-
that's what I've been doing for like the last 5 years, with little revelations along the way. And that's the message that I've been speaking potently for the last 2 years as I've gone solo.
You were a promoter or clubbing or dancing a lot, and probably then you came into contact with the pickup community. How was that
Oh yeah.
experience? How was
Why
that
also
journey?
why I didn't say why I got into it either, to the
Mm-hmm.
pickup community. So that's an important part of it. So I actually I mean, I say that I had girlfriends, but the one I really consider to be my first girlfriend was when I went to university in the north of England, and I felt like we fell in love with each other, and that lasted a year and a half, and you know, she was really dear to me, and when that ended,
Mm-hmm.
it created such a trauma. Okay, I'm not. It wasn't just a hike. It created a trauma, no doubt about it, because I
Mm-hmm.
had to go back to my mum's, and I was stayed in bed for like a couple of weeks or something. I barely left my bedroom. Friends were bringing me like Nando's in bed. You know what I mean? Like Swingers. I don't know if you've seen the movie Swingers, where
Yeah, and everybody's
yeah,
like calling the girl and it's
the
voicemail.
answer phone. Yeah, I didn't go that. I kind of, yeah, I had a little bit more self-respect to do that,
Yeah.
but but yeah, but I was really like he was, like could barely leave the house. Like every other girl was just some skank, and I couldn't talk to them. And it really affected me. It took me 3 years to get over that. And that also was an important lesson for me because my understanding about that, and I know we're going to go slightly off on a tangent here, and I'll bring it
Yeah,
back to the pickup thing, but I realized actually these girls that we meet, the women that we kind of like, we fall in love with, let's say, when they break our hearts, that is actually, this is for me anyway, okay? That's the greatest lesson a woman gives us is when they break up with us. Currently in my life, my experience, this is the best lesson they give to us because they aren't actually the ones that create the trauma. They're just the mirrors for the trauma that's buried within you that you had when you were a
they
child.
create the rift and then the opening to get insight into it.
Yeah. So imagine you've got, I mean, I don't know, there's a trauma when you're young. So that, and as kids, we feel this pain for whatever reason, spanked, not having attention, being humiliated, whatever it is. And we have this pain through our bodies and we're not used to this pain. So we immediately pacify it. So we push the pain, I use this deodorant can, we push this pain down in our bodies and it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And we just get used to the kind of that dopamine rush of pacifying that pain. And so what happens is as we grow older, that hasn't gone anywhere. That's deep. That's on a cellular level. That's within us, in our emotional body, right? So what happens is the unconscious has to bring out externally symbols to resonate, to bring out the equal
To go
harmonic,
inward again.
to bring out that resonance with that trauma, with that pain. And so, for instance, that first girlfriend that I had, when she ended it with me, that brought out that pain again, right? And it was then that I was able to go, oh wow, okay, that needs healing now. That's what's actually needs to be worked on and loved and integrated and opened up. And so I didn't realize that at the time because it was my first love, like every guy does. They go, oh, it's her. I need her back because we associate her with, our freedom or our kind of, if I'm with her, everything's perfect. If I don't have her, what am I going to do with
Yeah.
myself? And actually, it's an abandonment issue, basically, right? And it's that abandonment issue that we faced when we were kids. And so basically, our unconscious pops up these people in our lives, especially girlfriends and girls that we fall in love with, to basically dredge up and irrigate that pain for us to work on. And if we're aware of that, then we can actually feel into it and actually go, thank you. Thank you for this. Thanks for being a mirror. And then we can do that loving work on ourselves. And actually, right now, I'm actually going through that with another girl, even though we never got together, fell in love with this girl, known her for 3 years. And for whatever reason, we just never quite happened. She's in Australia now, and it's crippled me. And I've really had to just really be strong and have that adult awareness to have the higher perspective on what's going on here. Because sometimes I get drawn into that wound, and it can be quite painful, and then I can kind of long for her. But now that I've got the resources and I've gone through this, these are all little spiritual lessons that I see. Even the bully at work, the kind of let's say the sibling that beat you up, or whatever. These are all landmark situations for you to heal yourself. And that's how I see it. And at very least, it's empowering that way. But let's go back to the pickup thing. So let's go back to that first girlfriend. So when that ended, I just thought, if I can't have this girl, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I actually went to the bookshop to find books of how to get your ex back. That's what I.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Come on, I have to get this girl back. And after reading some of these books, I just realized actually there's a reason for that breakup. And once the lesson was learned in that relationship, there's no reason to carry on with her. And then obviously I picked up the game and I read that. And then as I'm still going through a lot of that trauma, I resonated quickly with the message behind the game of we can go and have sex with any girl, anytime, any place. And, using this military
If you have the right techniques, yeah.
And women as these objects and taking on this kind of World of Warcraft way of getting them, okay? And the reason why it made so much sense to me was because that intention to see women that way it's almost like a revenge. It's like, and it's like, the nerds get even, or something like that. And that's actually how I felt at the time. It's like, yeah, girl, I'm gonna like, smash my way through loads of girls, and yeah, I'm gonna become awesome with girls, and I'm gonna like, become a Lothario. And actually now I realize that was all coming from pain and abandonment issues and that trauma that I talked about. Okay. But at the time I just thought, no, no, it's just cool. Cool guys get with loads of girls. So, I'm going to get into this. And I went so far down that rabbit hole. I was doing like NLP practitioner's course. I was learning palm reading, you
Yeah,
know,
me too. Palmistry, yeah.
anything just to kind of like, because I read that in the game, I was chick cracks, they were called. And I kind of really went kind of a bit weird with that. And anything that was going to bring me closer to God. I did cold reading. So a guy that taught Derren Brown,
Yeah,
like,
I know him.
taught me. And so I just thought, if I learn all these like strategies, then I'm just like, I'm going to be like impenetrable. I'm going to be this like, machine. And I did, I went out and I was like cold approaching hundreds of girls with my wing buddies, wingmen. And we were getting laid, occasional lays from it, but we're also at the same time disconnecting from people and women, right? But we were having the old bumbling lay. So at some point, so we were kind of backwards rationalizing it as, well, this does work, So that we were doing that for a while, and it was a pretty weird time of my life.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine said to me, John, what's happened to you, mate?
Mhm.
I went, what do you mean? And he said, do you remember when you used to go out? You used to be the club promoter. You used to kind of like, be cool. You were kissing girls. You were doing your own thing, but you never used strategies. You weren't using techniques. You weren't
Mhm.
qualifying and opening and,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. And I went, yeah, but I was just, I was probably just lucky or whatever. I still couldn't get it at that point. The penny hadn't dropped. So my friend said to me, John, what I want you to do is I want you to take everything you've learned, put it in a box, and just get out there and just let things play out again. Just go back to being John. And I remember thinking, I can't do that, man. It's just like I wouldn't be in control. And he said, bingo, that's it. You've got to relinquish control. And that was the frightening thing because up to that point, it was all about control, control of women, control of your words, control of your
Certainty.
body language, certainty. And to let go of control would be letting go of like talking to women in a way at that point because it was so entrenched in my behavior. But I did it. I went out and I just went out just have fun and just go back to having fun, harmonizing with the night, the music, the people, the staff. And actually, I just found myself just dropping back into that promoter flow. And when I was a promoter, I was always walking around, talking to lots of people. Hey, how you doing, darling? Give us a kiss, mwah. And then and but it was just so it was like swept up into my higher purpose of just being that
Organic.
promoter. Yeah, I'd come on, girl. So I'd pull girls onto my lap. We'd have a kiss and a cuddle. I'd get back up again, and I went back to that. I went back to that kind of behavior again. So I'm actually I'm actually out with these wingmen guys, right? And they're at the bar and they're kind of like doing their thing of like, what's your opener going to be? How are you going to cold approach her? Like, have you got your transition ready? Okay, cool. And I just went, oh, fuck that. And I just went around. And I was just being the promoter guy again. And I'm just dancing around, having fun with a girl, just like playfully batting each other, like dancing, having a dance off. And then we fall back onto a sofa. We're just chatting a little bit. And then, like before we know it, we're kissing each other. And we go, look, I want to get her back up. I want to have a dance again. And I wasn't even thinking about her. It was all just like part of the fun of the
But you
whole
were
night.
you were like I can imagine you were in your element, right? Because I remember sarging, how it was called, and going out, and I had to perform and I had to dance to music that I didn't like and talk to girls I actually didn't like and say things that weren't congruent with my personality. So yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I want to say something really funny here as well. It's like I really want to ask anyone who's in this like dating community: did anyone use the word incongruent before they joined this community? I'm really interested to know because as soon as someone uses the word incongruent, if I hear that word in a bar, I go, "Oh, you're into pickup, are you?" And they're like, "Yep." I just wanted to throw that in there, but yeah, I was in my element. I went back to being in my element, and what happened was my wingmen came rushing up to me after that, and they went, "Oh my God, John! Like, what was your opener? How did you transition? Like, what was your comfort building? Like, what was the keynote you did?
Hmm.
How did you micro
Yeah.
isolate that keynote?"
Yeah.
And I went, "What?" And they went, "Yeah, we saw you. You transitioned. You opened.
Hmm.
And now at that point, that's when the light bulb went off.
Hmm.
Okay, because now I realized we were out of sync, and that was like a kind of a big revelation for me, and I started to realize that taking a kind of taking a sequential linear process to talking to a girl was not working for me. And then I actually realized as I went deeper into it and I started to be more of that guy in my element, that actually strategy doesn't work, or strategy repels women. Strategy is not the way to be either. And then I kind of went in and out of it a little bit. I was like, still kind of like, I couldn't really articulate. I couldn't make sense of it because, you know, those guys were the ones that were taking most action with women, right? So I thought, well, surely if I'm with them, then I'm gonna have a better chance of connecting with women because, you know, they're more of their masculine energy, right? But at the same point, I had this splinter in my mind was like, something's wrong about this because I felt really good there. You know, it was flowing and like I was with that girl, but maybe that was just luck. You know, again, I was thinking maybe that's just luck. I don't know. You can't, how can you let go if you want to be with women? Surely you need to always be on the front foot and take action, take action. And so then, you know, I kind of started my own pickup company, right? And I was still kind of, you know, I was pendulum between these two ideas a little bit. Then I kind of joined up with a pickup company, a big pickup company. And then throughout the next couple years, these waves of revelation, shall we say, started to hit me, started to come to me. I would be taking guys on the streets and I'd be going, right, go and approach all these girls. And something felt wrong about that. I really didn't know how to, I didn't know why that was. Because I'm thinking, well, surely getting guys to approach girls is a good thing. You know, so, I don't know. And then I had to make these infield videos, you know, like the ones where I'm picking girls up, right? And I just had so much resistance to doing these. I can't tell you how much resistance, but obviously this was like the way that we somehow showed that we were good with women.
Yeah,
like, I guess
and you
I've
made
got
a
to
nice video about infill videos where you say, you know, the infill videos that you see, it's probably not the girls that they have a connection with, because if you truly have a connection with anyone, the last thing you want to do is just put it online public so everybody can see it.
You wouldn't put that video online. So that's why I'm calling out the industry on that one. And I'm saying that those videos that you see, those are the ones where like they never called back, they never texted back. So obviously they now feel like they've got free license to put the video up. They're never going to see the girl again, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, because the difference sometimes is that it's their profession to do it. But if I truly care about the girl, the last thing on my mind is going to be like, let's film this and let's upload this as fast as possible.
Of course, it wouldn't be. Okay, so let's take that situation where a guy's just done an infield video, right? So he's met this girl. He's alluded at least to the fact that he's taken her on a date and had sex with her, right? That's the idea behind these videos. So let's just go with what the marketing is alluding to there. So he meets her, goes back, they have sex, and if there's a connection, obviously they want to do it again. So can you imagine that? So he's just had sex with this girl. She's just left the house. You can imagine him going, "Hey man, yeah, did you get that footage? Yeah. Look, should we put it on tonight? Yeah, let's get it online tonight." Like, you've got to be a psychopath to do that. And there are a lot of psychopaths in this industry, by the way. Yeah. You know, especially at the top level with these companies, they're psychopaths. And so probably they would do it, actually. So it's either fake or psychopaths. And actually there's a lot of the two crossover as well. So just ask, if you see these like incredible videos where you're seeing girls, you know, guys kissing girls on the streets or whatever, or taking them home. If you see this coach, and if anyone's watching, if you see this coach, just say, what happened with that girl after that video? Just say to them, just catch them off guard. Yeah. And you'll notice them squirm and they'll go, I didn't see her again. Or, you know, well, why'd you put that video up then? Yeah. Well, because it's good to show guys how to talk to girls. Well, she never called you back, right? No. So what are you showing here? You're showing how to get a number and not really connect to the girl on the streets. You're like talking to her for 30 seconds, getting her number. Like every girl's going to give you their number just to get rid of you. So actually these infill videos for me are just like toxic, absolutely toxic. And I used to do them, but I used to kind of try my best to make light of it and just have fun with girls, you know, and like show that as the new way to be good with women, is to play with women, you know. And again, that was another revelation that came to me, because I did one in Melbourne. I did these videos where I went, look, I don't even want to get any numbers. I just want to have fun with this coffee barista. Wasn't really that attracted to her at all, but I just thought I'm just have some fun with her. And she says, what would you like? She's working behind the counter. And I said, can I have latte, cappuccino, your number, please? It was just a joke, you know. Yeah. And that, at that point, all I wanted to do was just have a laugh with her, right? Yeah. So by having a laugh, I've won, all right? Yeah,
yeah, of course, yeah.
Because even if she said, go fuck yourself, I'm still winning. So I've created a no-lose situation by doing that, right?
Yeah, because if guys would see that, they would say like, damn, dude, that dude is having so much fun. And if people would just learn how to have fun, dude, that's the most best mindset ever, you know? Like,
Yeah,
imagine he's not having fun and having the girl. Would you not rather be a guy who just knows how to be comfortable and have fun? I would say, like, dude,
absolutely.
let me know how you can be comfortable in your own skin and just have fun and enjoy yourself in any situation. Learn me that. I would value that skill even more than just focusing solely on getting good with women.
That well, and that's it, and that was exactly what I started to articulate and teach to guys, and it combined with all the other little revelations that I had, and actually that by me saying that to the coffee barista, and I just thought this is great footage. Guys are going to love this. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's almost like that kind of bonus footage, but I thought it's fun anyway.
Yeah.
And actually, and then I thought I'm going to keep this fun going, knowing that I haven't. There's no loss here. And I said, come on, do I have to order a croissant with it? You know, and actually she gave me the number at the end, whatever, you know, but the point was I didn't need the number for it to be a success. And so that's when I realized that through what I was teaching there and articulating, there's no such thing as rejection, because there's only rejection if you've got a sole objective to get something. But if your objective is just to play, if that's your new measuring system, then actually you've always won. You're always winning. And actually, when you're playing with girls and you're always winning, there's no loss that way. And as you're winning with them, you're playing with them, of course, you're able to bring a lot of potential and possibility with her into that. Yet at all times, you're not losing. So I actually started to kind of find anomalies within the pickup modality, the pickup context, whereby rejection, approach anxiety are all symptoms of going out there to take from women, to get something from them. And that's when I had the big revelation of like blowing that apart and actually creating the erotic element, which actually that's what play is. Play is the erotic element of interaction, social interaction.
It's something that let's delve a bit deeper into this. It's something that you say, like things that you learn from children, right?
Yeah,
Play.
that's so as I started to, I'll call it like peeling off the layers of the onion, right? I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you have a little bit of information, a little kind of awareness or something, and then you peel off another layer, you go deeper down the rabbit hole, and you go, that combines with that. That's a deeper truth. It's a consolidated truth. So I started to come up with the idea of playing, and actually I was invited onto a project by a friend of mine, John P. Morgan and James Tripp, and they had a project called Attraction Games. And the whole thing was just about playing. And they invited me as a coach, and we used to take guys on the streets just juggling with oranges, having like like water fights and doing human pyramids and stuff like that. And I was like, they asked me to kind of like come up with improv games for them on the street, right? Because I like improvisation. I used to do workshops with that as well. And then, so I started to understand this concept of play, and it's like, wow, that's how I was as a club promoter. I was just playing, and I was already winning. And so play trickled down into this idea of what I call autonomy. And if you can imagine, going out to get girls is like Pac-Man. You know, Pac-Man is like always needing something, pills, you know. Well, if you're autonomous, then you're already contained in your actions. So an example of that would be a cocktail barman. He doesn't need results from women because that's not his purpose in that moment. And I realized when I was a club promoter, I was autonomous because I was just doing my night. I had to talk to the sound engineers, the security, the bar staff, the managers, you know. And so if I saw girls around me, it didn't matter anymore. It's because it's like there's no one's judging me on my actions with women anymore, because it's not about that. But I was still meeting and connecting and hooking up with girls that way. So that was my other principle of autonomy, and play trickles down into autonomy. And then another revelation came to me when I was out on the streets in Belgrade. I was with this company, and we were doing these like boot camps. And I remember this. I was just feeling good. I was just feeling really, really like happy. The sun was shining. Everything was good. There's actually two stories here, but one's really long. But this is a short one. This is a short one. You probably heard the other one. I remember this group of girls starts walking towards us on the street, and you could hear like all the boys go, "Hey," you know, because they were quite good looking, and they're like, you know, they were quite radiant, you know.
It's Belgrade.
And in that moment, I just felt so good because I was just like, you know, like having a great time, and the sun was shining. And I just walk up to this guy and went, "Hey!" And I just start kissing her, and I'm snogging her for like 10 seconds. I hadn't said any. But in that moment, it was weird because in that moment, all I wanted to do was just like give her this kiss. You know, it felt completely like a gift to her in that moment. You know what I mean? It was almost just like a real ray of sunshine to her. Yeah. Even though I pulled her in for a kiss, it wasn't about the action of pulling her in. It was this feeling of just like covering her with this like joyful, childlike kind of fun. you know?
That is also a revelation that I had today. Even the term pickup, if you pick up, pick up, pick up,
Yeah.
pick up, it keeps on building and creating a baggage onto yourself, while at a certain point you throw away what you picked up and then you let go and express.
It's about letting go and expressing, right? And so in that moment, it was just like, fuck, I was giving, not taking. And then it kind of, then I got a little bit confused because I was like, but aren't we, you know, when we take a girl by the hand or like take her up to the bedroom, are we not taking? I was like, oh yeah, but so then I kind of like, I had to kind of had my self-reflective mind had to kind of work on that for a while. And then I kind of broke that down, and I've explained this in my book, and I've explained that there's a difference between taking on the action level and taking on the intentional level. Okay, so I can take a girl's clothes off, I can take her number, right? But the intention is I'm going to give you a gift. I'm going to give you adventure, fun, spontaneity, intimacy. Okay, so it's all about the intention. When I started to unravel that, then I realized actually the entire pickup community, seduction community, has the intention of taking. All of it had at that time, right? So because we know that to be true just by the language they use. And the language is intrinsically linked to strategy, and strategy is linked to taking. So the whole thing is one machine, and the language and the concepts are the glue, are like the nuts and bolts that hold that whole context together, right?
And you talk about seeing women as results.
It's all about results. So how can you go out and just have a beautiful conversation with a girl whilst trying to do pickup? That's a failure in pickup, right? If you don't get your result from her, even if you kind of consider that baby steps, you know, you're just starting to get out there, but the real goal in pickup is to get laid, right? So anything other than that isn't fully realizing the objective of pickup.
Well, it's actually normally being comfortable in your own skin and being a man on his purpose, on a mission. And we will delve a bit deeper into it, but it's sometimes being used as a marketing trick to like use it into self-development. But I see a lot of big seduction companies, people know which ones I talk about, and it's always the same conversations and tricks and kind of girls and places and venues. And they say, no, it's about being a fully developed man, but it's still solely focused on getting the girls all the time.
We are going to cover that when we go into like the archetypes of the boy and the man.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's not forget that. Let's make a mental note to go back into that.
Yeah, definitely. It's on my list.
So where was I there? I just lost my thread.
You were with the getting and
yeah, right. Yeah. So then I kind of went, okay. So what if I teach students how to give, you know, and just give unconditionally? So I started to take these guys that were coming on these boot camps for this, you know, the company I was working with. You know, I was starting to seed in this idea of giving unconditionally. But then as I passed these students back onto the other coaches, let's say, they were going, go and approach that target, go and approach that set.
And for people who don't know it, target, we're talking about the human being.
Oh, yeah, of course. By the way, that's a human being, you know. It's crazy, you know. And so the students started to get very, very confused because I was teaching them how to give and play unconditionally. And it's impossible, now I'm starting to realize this, right? It's impossible to be completely unconditional if you're working in a context that is conditional, isn't it? Right? So you can't let go of outcome if you're doing a boot camp to get outcomes, you know? That's the paradox. So actually that started to create a lot of internal issues with the company I was working in at the time. And actually a lot of heat started to come, I would say, it started from that. And then I kind of broke away and I had to go solo. So I went solo and I started to teach this message. And it was tricky because can you imagine if everyone knew food as McDonald's? Let's say the only food that we had on the planet was McDonald's, and everyone's enjoying this McDonald's because let's be honest, it does taste good sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
And let's say everyone's eating this McDonald's, but they're kind of like you go in there and you say, guys, this isn't good. This isn't good for you, and they're like, yeah, it is. It's great. Have a bite of that. It tastes great. And so what I've been doing in this dating community is I've had to really show the elephant in the room. I've had to really push up hard against this industry to show how toxic it is, how damaging it is, how self-destructive it is, almost by getting the ingredients of McDonald's, what's in a hamburger, and showing them all the chemicals. I mean, like Jamie Oliver does. I don't know if you've ever seen like school dinners or something like that. He goes into schools and he shows how much fat there is in the stuff. And then by doing that, he introduces healthier options, right? So what I've been, the first few months and the first year or so, I had to really show these guys the problems by going out and trying to hunt for women. That's what it is. It's hunting, and why going out on the results nature for women is so bad. And no one got it. No one understood it, really. It was just like a trickle of guys that really...
Because you wanted, to use your words, you wanted to give the green smoothie advice.
I wanted to give the green smoothie. And as we talked about with the trauma, because a lot of these guys, they're going through trauma, they're going through abandonment issues, whether they know it or not. This is the understanding that I have. They are resonating with the strategies and the command and conquer context of pickup. And actually, the ones that are deepest in trauma, you can even look at the correlation with this. The ones that are the most deep in trauma, they are the ones that use the most brutal sociopathic methods. They're the ones that do those infield videos. They're the ones that are like being very overly aggressive and no empathy, right? Because it's psychopathic. You know, that's what a psychopath does. There's no empathy, there's no emotion there. So yeah, only a few guys were getting it, but they were like, John, I don't get it. Like, you're talking about connecting with women, but you're saying you're not a pickup artist, and and you know, and that was like, they just really just couldn't understand that there's a difference. And here's what it comes down to: there's a difference between being with a woman and getting a result from her, right? And that's when you get in there and you separate that out, then you start to understand what I created there. So I basically created a new paradigm. I called it a new paradigm, or it's a new context about how you can be with a woman sexually, emotionally, intellectually, physically, without needing to get a result from her. Okay, so that I started to build this. I don't want to call it a blueprint. That sounds a bit like pickup-y, but I started to articulate concepts that navigated you into that space of unconditionality, right? And I call that the heart space, because I think when you come from the heart space, you can even do the research. It's the kind of the creation, and I go into the metaphor of the heart of a child. So if
that's why you like values like integrity and compassion a lot, because that are values that you have unconditionally.
They're the unconditional states, and I kind of and then again another layer of the onion came off, right? And I started to go, it's about giving, it's about playing, it's about feeling connected, not needing anything. And then I started to just observe children, you know, and I'm looking at them, and the mum and dad are in a restaurant, and they're sitting there all nice and static, you know, like yes, you know, yeah, and the children are going under the table, jumping on tables, like coming back, like going, look, mummy, look what I found, and they're exploring things that you know how children do, and I'm thinking to myself that they're fearless, they're running around this restaurant, talk to everyone, going under, you know, being very curious about everything. Life is like an exploration for them. And then they'll be going, Joey, do you mind come back here, sit down, you know? And then they're drinking their poison. Yeah, they're smoking their poison.
Yeah.
And I was looking at this, and I was really trying to take, you know, an outside the box perspective on it.
It's almost like our children are like, no, mommy, do like us, we're having fun. Be serious.
I started to unplug myself from even like an adult now. I'm an alien, let's say, looking down on this. And I was like, we've got a situation going on here where the children are just in their natural state, like life state, full of life and exploration and just the dance of life. And then you've got these other two people that they're older, they're sat down, they're not moving, and they're drinking poison and smoking poison, and yet the children are the ones that are misbehaving here.
Yeah.
And I started to see this, and I was like,
wouldn't it be cool if you know, like somebody came like and said against those two people, hey, do like your children, it seems like they're having fun, and you're not having fun. So
well, I'm that person, because that's the whole nature of my work. Is it started to go deeper into that now, and actually that's what I talk about, coming from the eyes and heart of a child. And just to clear this up, because this is actually going to tie nicely into the masculine, the boy and the man archetypes, but you've got to be careful because I'm talking here about childlikeness.
Yeah, and what is the difference with childish?
Right, so childishness is the petulant boy. Okay, so think about the terrible twos. Do you have this expression?
I don't have any children I know of, but I know it's the stage of no.
State, right, so you know, children, they're called the terrible twos because when they're 2 years old, it's just that they think they're gods, you know, mine, you know, and they're just like going for everything. I want, serve the self.
Narcissistic.
Okay? It isn't kind of narcissistic because they know no different, right? Because they've come from they're closer to the universal source where it's kind of like everything, it can be theirs, I guess. If they see it, they can grab for it, right? Then at some point they learn that they can't have everything that they want. And they start to develop an understanding and awareness for other people and compassion and empathy. And And that's when they go beyond that point, and hopefully they go beyond that point. But what's happened is in the pickup community, they're still there. They're still in that childishness, the petulant boy. Okay, and we're going to come on to that a bit in more depth later on. But what I'm talking about is not that childishness of the petulance, the narcissism, the I need, I want, serve the self, serve the self. It's actually the childlikeness, which is all those qualities of play, creativity, exploration, curiosity, honesty, even eroticism. Have you noticed children play with themselves?
Yeah,
And that's
and I also noticed it's oftentimes the thing that keeps people vibrant. Artists or people who still have a lot of imagination, creativity, who cultivate a lot of play in their life. It gives a lot of energy to.
it's actually the child. That's the childlike state that we've lost throughout the years, right? So you see these workshops like Radical Honesty. You might have heard of that
Brad
one.
Blanton, yeah.
Yeah, like all, I love it. Like it's all good, but like I would just say that that's one symptom of what I'm talking about, which is actually the childlike state that we've lost. Children are very honest. They're incredibly honest.
Yeah.
We didn't have to learn how to be honest.
Yeah.
It's already in us, right? But we were honest until we got punished for it, and then we learned we had to strategize and be dishonest, so we protected ourselves. So in fact, that's our natural state. Honesty is our natural state. Yeah. So it's almost like what I'm doing is it's like an unpacking. It's like a kind of a revealing. It's a going back to that natural state. And I just talk about that as the heart space or the heart of a child. And that's what I do with my work now. It's not even just about dating. It's about how to connect to that spirit, bringing the spirit back.
Let's talk a bit about indeed keeping that childlike behavior of the boy, but the transition into manhood. A lot of like the book King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, The Hero's Journey. Even your colleague who's going to speak at the event you organized about the Toltec tradition and Carlos Castaneda, they talk a lot about the initiation of the boy into manhood and the rituals, because unlike a woman who gets her menstruation and is her transition into womanhood, we guys don't have like an official bodily ritual that makes us move into manhood. So how do we move from boyhood into manhood, and what does manhood symbolizes in comparison with boyhood?
Well, this is the thing. This is the journey that I'm on, right? Because from my story, I was that boy, and was for an extended period of my life, and also didn't have that kind of the goddess either to kind of initiate me. They used to have goddesses which would use to initiate young men. Yeah, so we're seriously lacking in that female initiation, the elder male initiation, as well as like the kind of like the mythology as well of the hero's journey, and like actually taking that path of creation, bringing our gifts out into the world. That's been completely replaced by porn and the Kim Kardashians and the pseudo, I would say the kind of the pseudo masculine archetype, which is obviously like Jersey Shore or Geordie Shore, or the kind of the macho image of you're more of a man the more girls you sleep with, or like the faster car, the more you drink, the more you can chug, And actually, here's what I'm going to talk about. That I'm going to call it that pseudo alpha male image that is like prevalent amongst not just the dating community but just worldwide. That is actually that boy consciousness that I just spoke about, the childishness. That is that terrible twos. That is the guy that is he's trying to take whatever he can, right, to protect himself.
Yeah, because when you spoke before, you talked about delving into your subconscious and seeing where all those obsessive, compulsive, addictive behaviors come from. But unless you deal with it, I think a lot of men, when you see substance abuse, the vast majority of those people are men. And a lot of times, if you don't deal with those shadows and subconscious aspects, it starts to come out in violent, destructive, compulsive, addictive behavior.
Well, there's those addictive behaviors that are, if I'm drinking every time I feel a bit low, or I feel like I'm lacking something in my life, I call it filling the hole. We're constantly trying to fill that hole. And there's no difference between us going out and, we're feeling lonely, we'll go and watch porn, or we'll go and drink ourselves silly. That's the child equivalent. Sorry, that's the adult equivalent of sucking on our thumb, or having Mr. Blanky, or crying for attention. That's just the adult kind of, not even it's not even evolved. It's just like the kind of the mirror replication of that in adult form. And that's what I'm talking about. Picking girls up, going out in the streets to hunt for women, is the baby that's like crying for attention. He's like reaching out for Mr. Blanky. And people go, well, what's wrong with going out and like going after loads of girls? It's going to develop me. Yes, but there's a it's the place that it comes from. It's the place. Does it come from lack and that need to fill your hole, or is it coming from a place of I feel good, I can see beautiful women around me, I don't go, oh, I need to go and approach her, or can you go, wow, she's beautiful, I can let her go, you know? And only when you can let go of women can you actually healthily interact with them, in my opinion, right? So it's you got to look at the place that it's coming from, and unfortunately, I believe that the pickup community, or just call it the men's dating community, because I'm trying to not even use the word pickup anymore.
Yeah.
It's all stemming from pain and abandonment issues, and coming from those abandonment issues, I would say with mummy and daddy. You talk to a lot. Sorry to just finish. Because I kind of this is kind of dear to my heart, because I really see this being played out, and I don't think a lot of guys know this well enough, or they don't even admit it to themselves. But you look at the top, you know, like the high level, even the ones that are the most into this. Just do a bit of investigation and just ask them, you know, like, what was their childhood like? You know, you asked me, right?
Yeah, I asked
And
you. Yeah.
I would say that they have serious abandonment issues with their mum or their dad.
Yeah.
And what happens there is, when you're starved of that emotional need when you're young, right? You quickly develop addictive personality.
Yeah, you overcompensate.
Yeah, you have to overcompensate, right? So your hug, you could say your metaphorical hug, comes from the dummy or sucking the thumb or whatever it is that children do, getting angry, okay? That's your way to kind of protect yourself or give yourself that hug. And so you take that out into later life. And there's also, you know, they take that out into the way that they interact with women. They're now seen as this thing that can give them that hug, because they're feeling empty and damaged on the inside. So another way to look at it, if I had this glass and I shattered this glass, it's fragmented, right? And if you can imagine, when we get hurt, it fragments. And that is the movie projector through which the lens that we see the world. So now we see the entire territory, or in field they call it the battlefield or whatever.
Yeah.
It's fragmented. Everything's fragmented. So there's a little piece there. That's the fast car I need. The girls, they're over there. That's another shard of glass over there. And so men, from this broken, fragmented intention and place on the inside, they now spend their lives trying to get these things and bring it back together, because somehow that's seen as their way to salvation. So you can see that from that fragmented, subjective, fragmented subjective perspective, they need to approach girls, because approaching is one act bridging one separate object to another, isn't it? That's what approaching is. But when you actually start to develop this from the inside and actually bring yourself into wholeness, you actually start to see everything else as connected. So how can you approach something you're already connected to? And that's when I really started to go deep into social heart issue. I was like, wow, I kind of get it now. And, you know, and I use the metaphor of the sun. So the sun is millions of miles away, 9 million miles away. Yet when we can feel the sun on our cheeks, we're connecting to that sun, right? So are we disconnected or not? We're actually connecting with the sun. In the same way, when you smell a flower and you're connected by the fragrance, at what point are you not connected to the flower? It's all just a way that it's a way of perceiving it, right? So when I'm going out and I'm playing with women, or I'm making eye contact with women, or I'm just holding space for her, I'm just connecting with her, it's that erotic element I mentioned before, right? That's just connecting us in that moment. Even just when I walk into a club, my energy is connecting to them already, right? But if you do the research on this in terms of like neurological studies, when you're activating the fear and the stress response in your brain, okay, you see everything as objects that need to be approached. Okay, this is very interesting. When you come from love, when you come from the heart, you see everything as connected, and you see everything as potential and possibility. And now let's go back into the childlike person, right? Think about a child and they're running into a playground for the first time. How many separate objects are there? Are they saying, I need to go and approach that swing?
No.
I'm going to transition with that other boy over there. No. You know, they're just seeing it all as one twinkling, like sea of potential and possibility, and they're playing, right? So again, that's what I started to teach now. I was like, don't come from the ego mind, the Pac-Man that needs his results, because that promotes fear. It puts you into fight or flight. And of course, the language that's used in the dating community, as much as they're trying to shed it off, still holds within it, in the nucleus, the fear response, stress response. Approaching is like a tiger approaches you, approach the edge of a cliff, you approach a bomb. So again, as much as they're trying to shed off some of this like military language, the whole thing stays together as long as you use the word rejection, approach, open, whatever, because it's all strategy to get a result. But when you come from that childlike exploration and play and wanting to co-create and not needing outcomes, then all that language goes, all of it. If you reintroduce one of those words, you're in strategy again. That's why I'm so big on language. So that's why I started to teach. Just be that child that just wants to go and play, you know. So when you go to a bar, you walk in there, instead of going, "Where's my target? Where's my target?" You say, "This is one big pool of potential lovers, best friends, great stories to share," and just let go, embrace the chaos, whilst leading like you said with the dance, still leading it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, not needing anything.
Yeah.
And that is when the final penny dropped, and that's when I kind of that was when social artistry absolutely came into its full form. And I've been teaching this for a while now, and I do believe it's healing guys, not just helping them with women and people, but actually healing them from within.
I'm just glad that I can talk about positive masculinity in this way, because I notice when you talk about it in the media or you talk about it in society, it's always being polarizing. Sometimes you have the pickup community or so anti-women and want to prove themselves, and then you have feminism sometimes who blames everything on men, and it's like two anti-movements. And sometimes there's a demonization of masculinity, but you have a very narrow view of masculinity, which are the negative aspects, which are the tyrant aspects. Also a woman invites us to wholeness. That's also the symbol of earth, you know, like becoming one, transcending our mental boundaries, you know, and that creates an openness for men to step into. But now you don't have a lot of male archetypes. There's a little bit of demonization of masculinity. There's less invitation to step into the feminine wholeness. So it's hard now to find a transition and initiation from boyhood into manhood. So where do we find these figures, or where do we find these initiation rituals?
Well, I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to kind of put this together for guys, and I'm introducing feminine aspects to the masculine as well. That's important. You know, the true masculine has those feminine aspects within it. You know, like a yin yang. There's a feminine within the masculine, and masculine within the feminine, right? So what's happened, I believe, is that, you know, in the advent of the feminist movement in like the late 60s, early 70s, it created a culture of men who were like the nice guy, you know, or like
Prince Charming.
Yeah, the Prince Charming was my mentor. He says it's like the Femi man or Cosmo man, you know, from those magazines where it's telling guys how to behave around them, but it's all just like, it's not real. It's just like what they kind of say they want from guys, but it's not. It's like, and it encouraged men, it promoted men to withdraw their masculine energy, you know, and all those positive aspects of masculinity, right? And it created a bunch of these like Prince Charming, nice guys, the Hugh Grants. And so what happened then after that is what we're seeing being played out over the last 10 years is a pendulum swing right back the other way, which is all about total masculine energy, you know, like total decisiveness, assertiveness, go, 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 approach, target, wingmen, gun to the head.
Military style.
Yeah, because you see this in trends, even in fashion. You have like, you know, like the big flares in the 70s, and then like the contrast to that was like the very skinny jeans of the 80s, you know. Yeah. You had the short hair of the 60s, you had the long hair of the 70s. So things start to kind of like polarize. That's how things work. It's like pendulum, right? And so what you're seeing being played out in the last 10 years is that like overly aggressive masculine energy, but without the feminine aspect to it. So you could say that the nice guy is the total feminine, compassionate empathy, you know, but without any of that masculine energy to it, that charge, right? Now you're seeing like all that charge with no empathy. So what I've attempted to do with social artistry what I'm doing is it's the synthesis now of the feminine and the masculine. So it's like maintaining that decisiveness, but wrapping it in compassion and empathy. And that is the embodied masculine when those two things come together. And that is why going out to get your results from women, or creating a measuring system whereby you're better with women if you get your results from her, that is still the stage one boy consciousness. That is still the terrible twos. That is still where the pickup community is. It's in that boy consciousness, the main. And the next stage, even if you look at children, and I've learned this from tantra healers and teachers over the years, but as children, we move through that stage of main, and we go to stage two. And stage two is where we're developing empathy and compassion. I might have mentioned this earlier. And then the third stage of masculinity, which is what I'm promoting now,
Is the heart?
is when you transcend and you include all of that. You pull it all with you. So you pull the I want, the decisiveness, and the empathy, and then you integrate that together. That's the fully embodied masculine. Okay, so that's what I'm teaching with social heartistry. And there's also feminine aspects as well to men, which we don't even have to go into. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm seeing now. Is I'm trying to integrate those two, the masculine and the feminine, in the way that we show up, and it's an unconditional state. You know, that's that club promoter of me that I was going around talking to girls and
You're promoting artistry now.
Yeah. Well, I am, because at the start people thought I was crazy, and first of all they ignored me, then they ridiculed me, and now everyone's talking about it. And you're noticing even these big pickup companies, they're now starting to talk about the inner child, the heart of the child. I mean, it's just, whether or not they're doing it with good intentions or they're just jumping on the gravy train, I'm not sure. I'll leave that up to others to decide. But definitely, this is now the evolution, I think.
What I think is really interesting that you say, because I totally agree with your perspective about it, is you have two ways of viewing like the masculinity, but we have to work on, or that we can cultivate. On one hand, we have the very vulnerable boy who doesn't know how to transcend into manhood, and he's very sensitive, he's very empathic, but what he needs is a little bit of archetypes, decisiveness, perseverance, groundedness, willpower. That's on one hand. On the other hand, you have somebody who is like doing, perfecting strategies, analyzing and stuff, and that dude just works a little bit on being open, being sensitive, being vulnerable. So there are two sides of the spectrum. That is, like you said, a fully embodied man.
That's it. So like the first thing I tend to do with these like die hard. If a student comes to me and they're like die hard, that kind of go, like get. I get them first of all to let go of women. And like, what do you mean? I said, well, look, calm down.
yeah. Seems like a very hysteric client.
What do you mean? Yeah. So, let go of the need for women. And then instead of just let going into vacuum, I'm not saying let go into void space. I'm saying change your kind of perspective on it to appreciation. Okay. So instead of seeing this girl walk past and just going, oh, I need to go and get something, see if you can actually see this girl and it makes you feel good. You feel, wow, I love this city. Oh, God, I love being in Sweden or whatever, And so once you can start appreciating women, and then when you talk to them, now it's going to be like a gift. That appreciation is going to be felt from them. And that's actually when you can start interacting healthily. I teach unconditional acts. So do an hour of random acts of kindness. Well, not random because I'm asking to do it, but, deliberate acts of kindness for an hour where all you do is stick your attention outwards and see if you can sort of like keep your awareness on everyone and like make people feel good, lift them up, brighten them up. And so as you start to put your awareness outwards, there's less concern over the self, isn't there? Because if I'm 100% outward, then I'm 0% worried about me. And actually that's very healing as well. Yeah. So for me, that's the stage where you get those guys out of that, where you switch up to unconditional giving. And then when you realize that actually taking a girl by the hand is actually giving after a while, because you realize it's the intention's one to serve her, to co-create with her, to merge with her, not to get from her. So that's kind of the stage of that, is to develop that empathy, appreciation, the unconditional states. And then once you've learned how to do that, you feel good around women and feel like you like women even, Because a lot of these guys, they don't even like women, let's be honest. They resent women, let's be honest. They fucking do, right? They
do, yeah.
You wouldn't call a girl a target if you liked her. I'm sorry. You wouldn't say last minute resistance if you liked a woman. So that's what I do. I get them to switch up into that, get them to love women again. And when you love women, now you can go and talk to them and be decisive.
Well, the problem I have with most pickup companies sometimes is when I will look at the videos of the girl they seduce, it's always almost in a discotheque and it's like but I don't see them like seducing an art gallery exhibit. They having fun, they having a nice chat. It probably is boring to watch, but it's like these people are having a genuine connection. They really put themselves on the line, have an interesting conversation that they couldn't have with anyone, not just with some routines, and it's like, oh, cool, I wish I had something like this. But if I see just drunk party sluts conversations at a discotheque over and over again with the same routines, it's
Yeah.
not very inspiring because that's not the kind of person or girlfriend or women who I want to have in my life.
Yeah, and also like I think they're going to die out all these videos where they're showing all this stuff because what's the purpose of it? Because a genuine human connection can't be replicated.
Hmm.
This is again another trick of the mind. Okay, this is like the NLP thing. So they'll see like two souls sharing with each other, right? And they'll try to extract the mental components to that.
Hmm.
Okay, but that's like one perspective of something. So once you do that, that's the self-reflective mind. Okay, and then what happens is a whole industry gets built upon the self-reflective mind, building it into strategy, right? And so when you start seeing everything through the eyes of like the NLP practitioner or like the kind of like the strategy of the components along the way, then you're totally disembodied. It's the disembodied mind that you're
Yeah,
coming from.
and it's also something I realized because I like to put things into frames and make them predictable, and it was useful to structure my reality. But if I keep on looking at reality and people that way, I was always be an observer of life. I will never
You're
be
the
a participant in life.
Absolutely bang on. It's the observer, not the participant, and it's the observer paradigm, not the participant paradigm. And that's why I often say that, you know, to students that don't really get what I'm talking about, I say to them, "What's the difference between sex and rape?" I know it's a bit like this is a bit like hardcore, but
My interviews are 18 plus, so
okay, good. So from the outside looking in as the observer, it looks the same, right? You might be doing a bit of BDSM
yeah.
stuff with your girlfriend, right? So from the action level, it looks the same, right? But the intention's a world of difference, isn't it? One is taking, one is giving.
Yeah.
You know, you're giving to each other, right? Give and receive, give and receive. Like the role play is the gift, right, for each other. So that's what I'm talking about with it's all in the intention. So I can still take that masculine action, but like it's all about that intention to serve, you know. And that's when I think the penny drops with a lot of guys because they realize that you you know you have sex within rape. This sounds awful. You have sex within rape, but rape is not sex, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So that's when it really starts to make sense for a lot of guys what I'm talking about here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think maybe is that one of the tools if people wanna see if they have a mask of masculinity or is still in boyhood consciousness? Are there certain questions or things that people could do to see like, okay, what's the paradigm I'm approaching things here?
Yeah, well, just look at your language because the language is the quick way to see what's going on an unconscious level. It's the metaphors that we use that are the referent to our paradigms, you know, are the way
You
that
know,
we
you know
show up
what?
in the world.
I had a trip this weekend because it ties into what you said, and it's just
Hmm.
because I'm in the phase of quitting my job and doing this full
Yeah.
time, so I only have like 3 hours a day. And a
Uh-huh.
guy asked me about I'm currently without a girlfriend, and my reaction was like, yeah, but I'm not gonna sacrifice any time. And then as soon as I said that, I was like, okay, the message is in how I see it. I look at it as sacrificing time.
Sacrificing what for what?
Yeah, I only have a couple of hours a day to spend
Yeah.
because I'm working on my passion and making it my
Yeah.
full-time business now. And I was looking at how I could, have a girl into my life, and my reaction was like, yeah, but it will be difficult to sacrifice time. But if you look at it as sacrificing time, it
Yeah.
shows you where your priorities are, right?
Yeah, that's yeah, that tells you a lot about the way that you're seeing things.
Yeah.
Even if you're kind of unconscious of it, it'll come up through the expression of the way that you're seeing things. So yeah, just to tell for guys that are wondering, you know, like if I say, oh, I'm always saying it, but if you use the word approach, you're in the wrong paradigm. Just the word approach, simple as that, because that's the disembodiment. That's like putting two separate objects together. You know, when you clap your hands together, do you say my left hand's approaching my right hand?
Yeah.
You don't, because you consider your whole body connected. So even though there's a distance between these two objects here, right, it's my body that's connecting this, right? So in the same way, when I see a girl, I might not be in physical space connecting to her, right? But I'm connecting in loads of other ways, right? Perspectives. So that's the way that I show up. Okay. So just I would say, look at the language you're using. That tells you an awful lot about the way that you're perceiving things. And also, I really say, you know, if you're seeing women as results, then you've got it all wrong. And if you've got a coach and he's teaching you, you come with me, you're going to get results. Just I wouldn't work with them personally because this is not about. This isn't like money making. This isn't like building like a 6-digit business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
7-digit business. This is just like human connection.
yeah,
And so that's very, very dangerous when you start seeing women as results. It's okay after. Okay, so let's say you've had this amazing connection with a girl, and in your self-reflective mind, how you're meant to use your self-reflective mind, you go back and you went, oh, that was pretty good. Like, I had fun there. I feel proud of myself that I kind of took action, and I could say, okay, that was successful. But I don't. When I'm going out there, I'm not seeking success. Does that make sense? There's a big difference there. So that's what I would say guys have to shake off. And unfortunately, the whole industry is on results, isn't it? That's what it's about. So that's why I think you can't go deeper into the men's dating community to arrive at freedom, because it's like you can't go deeper into rape to arrive at sex. You
yeah.
know what I mean? You have to emancipate yourself from that and enter into sex. So that's why I had to give it a new name. My mission was to create a new umbrella title with a new context where everyone could explore this erotic, tantric, playful way to show up with women unconditionally. So that's kind of what the mission's been about, and it's going even beyond dating now. Like we spoke about earlier, like I want to create a school where the adults go to learn from the children. This is like my next mission that I'm working on at the moment. A bit of a crazy idea. So yeah, I've got a lot. There's a lot more to this social heartistry thing than even just boy meets girl, and I'm exploring that at the moment. So.
Yeah, they say every saint was first called mad, so
Sorry?
every saint was first called mad. So
Mad. Yeah,
yeah,
maybe you're right.
no,
And actually, sorry, I just thought of something there. That's another important part of the masculine energy. Okay, so let's consider this. This is actually you're going to get a lot of this from my mentor. I'm not the. This is kind of trickled down from him, but the masculine energy is electrical. It's the charge. It's the change energy. Okay, the feminine energy is it's the kind of the state. It's the form. It's that which receives. Okay, so when you're really leaning against your masculine edge, you're not using thought forms and ideas from the state. Okay, so let's just consider like a community that we're part of. Okay, when you're in your feminine energy, let's say that you're just repeating ideas from what's already in state. Okay, when you're leaning against your masculine edge, you're like the Tesla. You're like bringing in radical ideas, like new seeds, into state, which can transform it. And we know from society that those that promote state are best rewarded. They're the ones that are cuffed, collared, and tied. They're the ones that, like the city slickers. They're like the bankers, the ones that are supporting state. Okay, the ones that come along and they're really leaning against their masculine edge, they're often, like you said, ridiculed, ostracized. Die alone. Maybe Tesla, I think, died alone.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's that thing, right? So are you going to be the guy that kind of creates these new radical ideas because you want to transform, or do you just want to make money, which is part of state? That's feminine. So that for me, that was an important part of what I wanted to do, which was to just, I didn't want to see it as like money making. I wanted to see it as, I want to absolutely blow this shit up from within and transform it, And that's, for me, that's an integral part of your masculine energy.
Let's talk about John the Knight, who's attacking the castle and trying to have its kingdom. Let's talk about empowering the knight. Like,
Empowering the knight within.
yeah, empowering the knight within. How do you resonate with the knight, and what kind of characteristics do you associate with the
Yeah,
knight?
so well, me and Chris, DOG, we were trying to come up with a good archetype for this, this image, right, of this kind of new the masculine archetype we could promote to people. And obviously, the prince is not a good archetype. The Prince Charming is not a good archetype,
Yeah.
and so we were like thinking about the ideas behind that, and then we realized like the knight is actually an older and way more powerful archetype, and he also, if you kind of do the research, he actually has his kind of like flag, which is his value system, of integrity, courage, action, and he always stuck by that as his kind of his kind of mantra, his navigation point for how he showed up in the world, and that's what we want to bring that back. The white and the dark, the light and the dark aspects of the night, okay, all together. So that's why we really like the idea of the night, and so that's what it's a cool strong archetype that I think is needed.
What do you, if people want to talk about positive masculinity, what are some
Yeah.
traits or values or characteristics that you associate with a positive masculinity?
Well, I say that a positive masculine has the feminine aspects within it as well, and they both got to be strong. Okay, so if not, then we're the If we're all masculine, no feminine, we're the psychopath. Okay, if we're all feminine, no masculine, then we're the nice guy with the monks up
Yeah,
at
or
up
the
a mountain,
castrated boy.
yeah, hugging a tree. So it's about always integrating the two together and being someone that walks out into the world as a creator, not a contaminator. Okay, that's when you're truly in your masculine energy, because you're bringing your gifts as an electrical charge into state. Yet at all times, it's empathic, it's compassionate, and it's like there's a growth to it. There's an expansion to your ideas and to your interactions, as opposed to being around people where they actually suck your energy around. They're like psychic vampires, and you can actually feel it when you're with these types of people. It's like distorted masculine energy, and you get this aspect in women as well. It's when you're with these people and they're just trying to get from you. Even on an energetic level, they're sapping you. And you can hear this even through their language. You'll be having a conversation with someone and they'll be like, yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. They won't let an idea that you have penetrate them. So
Yeah.
they're always, they're
Defense.
refusing to be in their feminine. There we have another example, right? So the masculine is that which goes towards and the feminine is that which receives. Okay, so when you have two people in their masculine, what happens is it's like, yes, but, and the other person's going, yes, but. And you
Yeah.
can see how that's two masculines coming together, but there's no one's ready to receive that idea. And you see this conversationally. So this is what this is like conversational rape. So when you're a kid, your parents tell you what to do. They tell you, they give you ideas, but they haven't aroused you first. They haven't allowed you to receive that. It's been forced upon you. It's almost like conversational rape, shall we say. Okay, so when you're with people, it's important, or if you might even notice this around you, where there has to be that dance, as you say, of the masculine and feminine occurring in your interactions, in conversation. So even now, I'm in my masculine, you're in your feminine, you're receiving me.
Yeah.
Okay, but you'll notice with some people that they just won't be fucking listening to you as you're talking to them. That's when they're in their masculine, you're trying to be in your masculine, you know?
Yeah.
And you can feel it actually sucks your energy away after a while, because it's draining you, because they're refusing to let you're wasting all this energy and it's not being received. So it's just like going out into the ether. But when you're with someone, they're really listening to you, they're holding space for you. All that energy and all those ideas that you have are being laid as seeds and growing. So that's the healthy embodiment of the masculine and feminine coming together. So that's what I think, a man should do in life. Bring those ideas, but also be very open and feminine to receive, and have that dance with life.
It's also, when I think of the knight, I also think of a brotherhood. I think of Templars, and I think a lot of times we as men, we don't have like a support system or go in depth. Although that is changing, because more and more men are talking with me about issues, also not victim in a negative way, but the issues that they have, men circles. And when people hear men's circles, they maybe think, oh, they're going to talk about porn. No, we talk about, issues, sexuality, things we face. We're very open about it. So I also see an evolution that we transcend the typical image of the masculine,
Well, that's it. So that vulnerability is the key. Okay, so the old breed of like the man is like, or even the old breed of coach, I think, like these sort of coaches that you see, is like trying to prove that you're a god. You're like Iron Man. You're impenetrable. You have hundreds of girls. You're the king. You're the king of your kingdom. You have no problems going on. Okay, I think that's a very, very outdated archetype for what a real man should be. And I think the new breed of man is someone that wears his heart on his sleeve. He's vulnerable. He's open. He opens space for other people to be vulnerable. That's what I think a true man should be, right? So it's not about teaching someone or giving them information. It's about putting yourself forward and opening that space, which encourages others to come forward and do the same. And that's why that means alpha is first, right? That's what I said about earlier, showing up first, authentic first, vulnerable first. That's the true leader for me, And I think that's what's lacking completely within men at the moment. And unfortunately, now guys, what they're doing is they're hearing this concept of vulnerability, and they're now doing vulnerability to get something. Yeah. Can you see again? that's the usurping of
Yeah.
that idea, and that's not vulnerable anymore. As soon as you're using vulnerability as a technique to get something, you're very much covering yourself up, and that's what, again, needs a lot of unpicking and unraveling.
Yeah, and when you also work with vulnerability of authenticity, you get feedback on your genuine personality, and you peel off the layers of the onion. If you keep on
Yeah,
playing your role and you're not vulnerable, you're not willing to grow, you're not willing to have new ideas, you won't evolve and you won't grow. You will always be that fixed image of yourself, and maybe stay stuck in the stage that you were in your junior school of the Joker, the dancing monkey, the
I
performer.
know. Well, I've actually noticed this with certain people, especially the like highly accoladed people, is that they've been dining off an image for so long, and they've obviously got a lot of reputation from it. That this is who they are. That it's kind of like an unwillingness to be vulnerable and like allow themselves to kind of break down, to then become someone new. Everything needs to just be destroyed or broken down to rebirth, right? Even the cells in our body, everything, life acts like that. But these people are holding on so rigidly to this image of themselves that actually they're unprepared to, drop the ego, leave the ego at the door, and kind of find a deeper layer of truth within them, And that takes a level of vulnerability. And also, God, what if people see me as vulnerable and weak and, like I'm mortal,
Yeah.
But that I do believe that's the courageous part, is to do that. And I'd like to see more of it.
Yeah, I think the knight is an interesting archetype because you have other archetypes. You have the negative warrior, which is like the Jersey Shore or Geordie Shore kind of
Yeah,
guys. You have
yeah,
the MGTOW movement, or people who have the sexodus and they withdraw from society. They're like gaming inside their cubicles, and they are not interested in sex and relationships anymore. And then you have some people who are more like the tyrant, like just want to dominate people and prove that they're better than everybody else, But the knight is ready to serve. He has his banner, he has his values, he's ready to fight for someone, but also to just chill with his brothers or take care of his family, enjoy the the sensual aspects in life.
exactly. That's it, man. That's it. That's why I was quite happy with that name. But yeah. So that's what I'm aiming for, and I think it's yeah. This is what I'm moving towards now. It's like the full embodiment of the feminine within the masculine, and also the strengthening of the masculine as well. It's coming together. Yeah.
I'm gonna close up with some questions that I got from some
Oh yeah.
members of my group.
Hmm.
So somebody asked how parents can teach boys to help them grow into emotionally mature, compassionate, awakened men.
How can parents assist their children to become compassionate, empathetic men?
Yeah.
I'm not a parent, so I can't answer that. But uh, again, I mean, I can give a long-winded answer here, but um, there has to be there's stages to this. So I kind
Yeah.
of
Okay.
work with this model that a tantra teacher gave to me. Okay, so I've kind of been working with this idea that like the first stage of the boy consciousness is the mine. I want, and then as these children develop, they move into the stage one of the masculine, which is the compassion and the empathy. Okay, and this happens naturally because as children, if we're aware and we're not totally damaged children, then we will start to have an awareness and an empathy for other people around us, and we step into that for a little while. Okay, and so that should happen naturally. Okay, that's something that we all go through at certain stages of our lives, unless we stay in the boy. And of course, that's what we're seeing right now is the what's going on in the world. You could say the patriarchy isn't the fully embodied masculine. That's not the problem. It's the boy consciousness. That's the problem in the world. Okay, so that's why all these issues that feminists are throwing at men is actually the boy within the man. Okay, so that's what needs work. We need to help these. We need to encourage these men to step more into empathy and compassion. Okay, so yeah, so that's the next stage that children go through. As I said, I'm not a parent. I wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know until I'm in that situation how I would guide my children. Maybe there's people out there that do have children that and they find a way of doing that. And then at some point, as I said before, they integrate their decisiveness and going for what they want with that empathy and compassion. Now, also, just to mention this, there's also a feminine aspect within the man that I must talk about as well to balance this out. So I'm working with this model that the stage one of the feminine within everyone is, let's say, the little girl. Okay, and this little girl is totally vulnerable and exposed to the world and everything's a bit scary, okay, and it's kind of a bit shocking and you don't know what's going to happen, then the next stage for that part of the feminine, let's say the kind of teenager archetype, is to build a lot of boundaries, okay? It's to keep the self safe. So this is like boxing yourself
To
off.
have the control.
Fuck off, like I'm locking myself in my room, like to gain that sense of like I'm okay, I can look after myself, okay? And then the third stage of the feminine, the embodied feminine, is to have that infrastructure, knowing you're safe, the safety and the security, and then allowing yourself to open. Because what we're also seeing is that in the world is like a lot of women with the male shell, the headstrong masculine women, and they're kind of unable to open around men.
That's again what you say sometimes.
Absolutely, and that is why they could be gorgeous women. I don't know if you've had this experience, but if they're really headstrong and like kind of corporate in their vibe, it's just not attractive
I
at
have
all.
exactly the same thing. And you're in Sweden, and I actually had that impression where feminism is pretty strong. That I'm all for free choice. That's the first thing. People can do what they want, but they're very much in their masculine, competitive energy.
They are. I mean, I do like it as well because I went bowling last night, and they were actually, and it was like really competitive. And they were like giving me arm wrestles and stuff. I loved it. But you're right, and actually, I know I saw this before. I did a video about this before, but like when you shake a girl's hand, you can tell a lot about someone from shaking their hand, right? Most girls that if you shake hands with, they don't go all the way in with a handshake.
No,
okay, I know this is not a causality. This is a correlation, right? Yeah. But if you shake a girl's hand that's like used to being in an office, like lots of meetings, it will instinctively do an all the way in handshake. Okay, but generally you don't really get that in a social environment with women, right? Generally, okay. I don't do a sweeping generalization, but if you go to Australia or Sweden or Scandinavia, they will all do that really like firm. Yeah. Because they're in their masculine, like you said, okay? Yeah. And that's not to say they don't look like men. They're beautiful, right? They have that like really like go-getter attitude and like being very forward and direct, which is fine, But too much of it, as I said before, it's like sometimes you've got to open around men, and I think that's almost seen as a weakness, especially from like the feminist view of why would we open, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's the fully embodied feminine, and then it kind of invites this. It kind of really promotes the masculine energy to kind of merge with it. And of course, the opening, it can shut and open at the same time. But there's nothing more sexy when you're with a girl and she's really, really open.
Yeah. Man, if I see that, I mean, the poet in me is released, and that female perfume, and that I can see women who are 50 or 60 in their feminine element. It's so beautiful. I get like energized when I'm around them, like I see it in their eyes and their radiance, and it's all a matter of choice. But I know some women who were friends of mine, and they were a feminist, and then they started focusing more on femininity, but not femininity labeled as weakness or again that very narrow definition of femininity, but they step into their femininity, their openness, their fluidness, their expressiveness. They started opening up, and there started to be a better dance sexually, emotionally, socially with their partner, and a lot of beautiful things came from it. Not to be enforced, because if you force that on women, again, it's something very rigid. It should be something fluid, but beautiful things can happen that way when you allow yourself to express, get in tune with yourself, and say like, this is a genuine expression of myself, instead of the labels of men or feminism or society.
Yeah. See, those labels really fragment and compartmentalize everything, and that feminine aspect, let's say, is in men as well. So it's dangerous to kind of label things like black and white. But for instance, I do believe that I'm sometimes in my first stage girl, right? Okay, so, because I like when I went to the Amazon jungle, I just felt so like overwhelmed and like just it's like the little girl, you could say, like the little toddler in me was just feeling totally just like freaking out, basically, And I had the same even when I went to Thailand. I kind of had a similar experience because it was almost like again my unconscious was putting me in this place, was guiding me to be in this certain environment, so that I would have to go back into that first stage girl, let's say, and being very vulnerable.
Yeah, but women allow themselves to be overwhelmed, and they just melt into the experience, while we a lot of times want to control and are afraid of like fully experiencing something.
so my path, you could say, to the full embodiment of my masculine and my feminine is actually the feminine aspect of me is I'm actually in the process of learning how to put up boundaries with people.
Mm.
Okay, so that's something that I never did when I was young because, I said my boundaries are breached when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
I was bullied, I was
Yeah.
attacked. Even just like, like sibling rivalry, like being kind of like beaten up by my sister and stuff, bless
Yeah,
her.
yeah.
So that when you're young and you have your boundaries breached at a very young age, you tend to kind of like carry that forward into adult life. And actually, there's you get strong correlations between people that were like sexually abused that then turn out to be abusers themselves, right?
Yeah.
Or go the other way where it's they've had their boundaries breached and suddenly they become totally promiscuous. So it's like no boundaries, and so either the abuser doesn't see boundaries with other people, or this person doesn't know what boundaries are, because they had their boundaries breached. So that's an issue for me. So what I've noticed in the way that I interact with people is sometimes I just let everyone in, just don't hold up any.
You're the promoter. Join my party.
Yeah, come on, join the party. Everyone's in my party, And that's actually been a lesson to me where actually, like I've had situations where like I've let people stay with me, rent free in my house, and they're having a go at me for having sex, in my own house. You know what I mean? Because it's waking them up. So I suddenly realised that this was all a mirror for me not putting boundaries up with people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the stage that I'm on, is actually learning how to put boundaries up, and then once I've got that infrastructure within myself, is actually to be able to open completely myself, and to life, because I think that's the path I'm on with that. So yeah, so that's but with the masculine aspect, I do believe that I'm in the third stage masculine, let's say. But sometimes I can be the scared little girl.
Yeah, but that's okay to admit that, man. It makes you human. It makes you genuine.
Absolutely. Well, that's kind of like the vulnerable self, And I don't believe, as I said before, I don't believe everyone's got shit, man. Everyone's got shit and shadow sides of themselves. But I think it's better to just share it and be okay with it than trying to hide it up and cover it up. Because the person that covers it up, that's the first stage boy who's trying to placate and stop anyone seeing his pain. And that's why he wants to gain an arsenal of things and materials and image-based stuff, because he's trying to protect himself from pain, from that humiliation, from that being judged. But when you can just like open yourself up, then actually who can judge you if you're putting yourself out there?
We talked a lot about men, and masculinity. And I got a question from a woman who asks, the role of a female partner in the process of male self-development in heterosexual relationship. What are the best or what are the worst things women do subconsciously and consciously that hinder the progress of a man to become the best version of himself?
Yeah, that's quite a long one. Well, I think that I had the situation where I was with a girl and it did become very insular. It was like, I love you, you complete me, that kind of thing, And I think that's very dangerous, because then that distracts a guy from his purpose and his direction in life. And I think that's what I often found, that women would try and, I don't know, I was with this girl, she was unconsciously trying to bring me back to face her and look at her, as I was wanting to go out and build stuff and create and make the world a better place, But I was almost feeling this energetic tug to like pull me back into her, to make this like two halves coming together, like my other half. I could feel myself coming into that other half, and it's like, and I didn't want to do it, but I could just feel it was happening, And then my boundaries went, and as soon as my boundaries went on my value system and my direction, going from there to here, that's when I said, I'm in love with you. That's the moment I said, I'm in love with you.
You dropped your banner.
Absolutely. My banner went, and also my boundaries went. And that's when I think when a lot of people say I'm in love with you, I think it's very dangerous for me anyway, because that means that like I depend on you. Now it's almost like we've integrated, and I've lost my autonomy to a certain degree. And I felt, for me anyway, I felt it. As soon as I said I'm in love with you, it meant I am now like with her. And of course, you complete me, darling, all that kind of stuff. And then the moment I did that was the moment she ended it.
Yeah, I also have the same. I also had the same thing with girls, that it's not that a night will always the banner, the value, the purpose, the mission will always be the most important thing. Not to as something in opposition to the girl, but it's some contributing to something bigger. And the woman
Yeah.
or the society or your family is part of that something bigger. But once we can not fight, but like contribute and have that banner and those values and
Yeah,
that
exactly.
purpose, it charges us. Because even like physiologically, for a man to have an erection, he has to be relaxed, but he has to be charged at the same
Charge.
time. So when we contribute to society, to the world with our vision, our mission, our purpose, we get charged up and we are grounded enough to handle emotional waves, and be there for the world, for our partner, and we just need that. But it doesn't come from an adversary place in opposition to women, but it's something that we need to contribute to serve as a knight.
Absolutely, and it's that charge that you talk about that we're going to be going into in this workshop. But it's about taking charge, and that charge, like you say, fills your body. And unfortunately, we're given the outlet for that is go and jack off to porn, go and
Yeah.
release that charge. So now you've got all these guys like they're spent, literally, I'm spent. And of course,
Yeah.
they're unable to show up in the world with that masculine charge. So we've now, as soon as we get that charge, we think we need to deposit of this somewhere in a girl or in a Kleenex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That charge is what's needed as the knight to go and be of service. And once you're in service, when you're in that flow, when you've got that purpose, then you want to be the knight that brings the girl up onto the horse, not jumps off the horse. For her. So that's the metaphor. Be that knight that's actually on their purpose, on the horse, doing something. Then when you see the goal, invite them onto it. If they don't want to come up to it, onto the horse, you don't get off and start, milling about on the side of the, the path. That's when you're distracted. That's the temptress in the hero's journey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is
So
tempers in the hero's journey
yeah.
because
So,
when I think of a woman by my side, I don't think of the girl cooking and cleaning and sitting inside the kitchen. I'm thinking about that strong, soft Amazon, yielding energy
yeah.
beside me. It's not
Yeah.
somebody who nods. We can disagree, but it's strong and soft at the same time, and also contributing. And
Absolutely. And this is the thing, so a good going back to that lady's question is that a good relationship is actually it's not a love ship, okay? It's not a possession ship. It's not an ownership. It's a
yeah.
relationship. How are we relating to each other's purposes, our journeys? And unfortunately, too many relationships are built on love ships, but they don't really relate to each other.
Or
So
islands, like one is a ship and the other is an island.
yeah, so it's just disembodied, right? And so I think a strong relationship is when a woman is with me and she honors my path. She wants to make sure that she's inspiring me to be to live the life as fully and optimize my potential, realize my potential, and I'll do the same for her. And as a coming together, it's like an overlapping of circles, let's say, as opposed to the two half shells coming together. And we both are more focused on looking in the same direction than we are looking at each other. But as we're taking that path, of course, we're together in tandem. That's what a real relationship is. And actually, I've had that before. I've actually had a relationship where didn't love her, but actually was way stronger than the love ship. You know what I mean? And actually, probably those are the girls you want to be with,
Yeah,
really.
sometimes a relationship can become a shipwreck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's probably interesting why it's called ship as well, isn't it? Yeah.
I have two concluding questions
Mhm.
because we went really deep. And
Uh-huh.
what is your definition of a good, meaningful life? Or
You're
what
asking
do
me these
you
like really
associate
profound
with a good,
questions.
meaningful life?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's quite a deep one, brother. For me, anyway, my biggest fear is not exploring my full potential.
Mm.
I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of whatever spiders. Whatever. The one thing I'm afraid of is living a life where I didn't realize my full potential. And a meaningful life is when you're aiming to bring out all of that as much as you can, at least, to best serve others, and from a place of creation. That for me is a meaningful life. And in fact, even when I've had a productive day, let's say, and I've done that, I've slept well. There's a part of my soul that feels very, very happy. But everyone's on their own journey. They're on their own level of awareness. That's all I can say is that's for me, and I want to make I want to make the world a better place. You know, that's for me is a meaningful life. When I'm on my deathbed, can I look back? Am I going to say, "Oh, great, I had a Lamborghini," or am I going to go, I was leaning on my masculine edge and I transformed something. I really tried to change things." And as men watching this, what have you changed? What do you seek to change in the world? And don't feel like you can't do that, because if you think you can't change anything, then what's the point? You know. So that for me is a meaningful life, using that charge, the masculine charge, and actually starting to change state. You know, bring those ideas forward. And if you can do that, then that's meaningful for me.
What is something you recently changed your mind about?
Changed my mind about. Can you give me an example of what you've done, and then I'll come.
Well,
Can't think.
what I changed my mind about, but it happened like intuitively, is I had so much knowledge and books, and I keep on gathering. I kind of have the librarian archetype and keep on gathering knowledge. But intuitively, I know the only place of growth for me will be to express myself mentally with what I can do and really evolve spiritually and with the body. And just all the books that I have the principles, but there's not a lot of satisfaction anymore with just gathering more knowledge and more info, you
That
know.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's actually could be my answer, because I've that was something I changed my mind about. And actually, the self-help, let's call it
Mm-hmm.
self-help, right? Self-help for me is just pickup. It's like the pickup community,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like porn. It's gone too
Mm-hmm.
far, you know. So it was once about, you know, like developing yourself and like any little weaknesses that you have, like iron those out and like become stronger. Now it's about become the best version of yourself, which I don't like that expression. I think it's like bubble gum, you know. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you hear everyone talking about that,
Mm-hmm.
and actually, you know, I remember when I was deep in trauma, I had like a pile of books that big, all self-help, next to my bed. Okay. And that's what I changed my mind about. I thought, if I want to become powerful or a
Mm-hmm.
great teacher or a great communicator,
Mm-hmm.
I need to download all this data into me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought you had to do. And actually, in many ways, the state promotes and rewards those people that best memorize, you know, thought forms from the state. You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we think that for us to be powerful lovers, communicators, conversationalists, we've got to like download this arsenal of data. It's not true. So that's one of the things I changed my mind about. And I stopped reading self-help books. I gave them away. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I started reading fiction again. I started reading like erotica. Why aren't guys reading erotica? It's written by women to turn women on, and it's in that play frame I talked about. It's just like the moment by moment gratification, sensuality, you know. But guys would rather read the seven best habits to being a millionaire, or the
Yeah,
five
yeah.
to getting a girl in bed, you know, like they don't. And it's using this overly masculine approach. So I would say, yeah, that changed my mind about that. Reading, the way you read, the way you learn, you know. So just downloading learning into you, like look at your own body, look at your own
Mm-hmm.
mind, like what's going on, what needs work on, and then research that. You know, then Google that, then buy a book that's like fits into that, and then be the artist then that just wants to express just with whatever you've got in that moment. Bring that as an artist out into the world, and rather than trying to be an artisan that wants to basically be the perfect man, the best version of themselves before they come out into the world. No one's going to be the best version of themselves. We don't know what that even looks like. It's better to think the other way, where it's like a revealing of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So best version of yourself, it almost feels like a kind of, it's very egocentric, ego driven,
Mm-hmm.
packing all these things onto me like the
Mm-hmm.
Matrix, like downloading
Mm-hmm.
karate skills and like
Yeah.
languages and, you know, and all these different, you know, workshops
Mm-hmm.
and well, what about just like unpacking, like taking off the layers, the onion layers, and actually just that vulnerable truth, who you are, how you're moving through the world, just bring that out into the world. Then anytime you do need to, you know, go a bit deeper with it, then you do the reading, then you kind of do it that way. But unfortunately, self-help industries become like porn, and you know, I would say that's di directly linked, or it's correlatively linked to pain. And once you address that pain, you no longer need to go and download so much. Same thing with women. The pickup community trying to download women, aren't they? So again, it comes back to pain and healing themselves from within.
Yeah, and
To speak,
it's that collecting mindset and never enough and perfecting
yeah,
and always focusing on the result and a distant shore instead
mm,
of just, enjoying it. There's a time for everything. There was an
mm,
archetype that was the warrior, then the
yeah,
archetype more the librarian. But
mm,
I'm moving more into the bodily, sensual, lover, knight archetype to serve to something bigger, and vulnerability and authenticity is definitely part of it. John, I want to thank you so much for this chat, man. We went really deep into this one, social artistry, like a new concept, which I think is very much needed these days. If people want to find out more about the workshop, Empowering the Night Within, the work that you're doing, where can they connect with you and find out more?
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, surprisingly, it's called empoweringthenightwithin.com. So they can just go on there and they can book their ticket for it. I'm only taking 15 guys because I want to have a nice intimate room where it feels very personal and you know, we can really like help guys, you know, on a very intimate level. And yeah, it's going to start on the 24th and it's 24th and 25th of September, so only 2 weeks to go. So if you guys want to do that, you can go on that website basically. And I think that's it for now, man. TheJohnCooper.net if they want to see my other stuff.
That's fantastic, man. Thank you so much for this heart-to-heart chat, and
thanks, brother.
Thanks, John.